The lockdown fraudsters exposed. Never, ever bend the knee. General Mattis trashes Trump. Senator Cotton triggers the New York Times. Drew Brees is not woke enough. More riots in NYC and D.C. and is cleaning up Black Lives Matter graffiti racist. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We are not in rational times. I think we need to accept that and we need to act accordingly. We are rational, but the other side is not. I've seen this now play out in so many ways, so many public arguments, people that are supposed to be, important figures in public discourse. And it's just absurd what's going on with them. It's insane. It's hard to believe that you could have so much hypocrisy and dishonesty going on at any one point in time. But that is, in fact, where we are right now. I remember day after day in the evenings here, there was this clapping for first responders in New York City. And I will tell you, I yelled and clapped, when the COVID thing, and it was, look, COVID was really bad here. We got hit hard. The measures that were taken against it from a policy perspective were not nearly as effective as we were told they would be, lasted a lot longer than we were told they would, and were certainly taken in totality counterproductive. Wrong. It was the wrong choice. And yes, that means that Trump got pushed into the wrong decision on this one. Wasn't up to him to leave New York and California and these other states in this continuous state of lockdown and economic despair. But I told you, they got the president who has been through more political pressure than any human being I've ever seen in elected office in my lifetime. He's stood up and dealt with so much, but they finally got him just this one time. And I understand why. I don't blame him for it. I for a couple of weeks was like, we are in for a pandemic and what the heck is going to happen? And because you got to believe at some level, you want to believe that the experts have some idea of what they're saying and what they're doing. Nope. They were making it up as they went along on the important policy issues, right? On the basic stuff, the virus is bad. The virus can kill people. Yeah, we all knew that. What were the experts telling us that we didn't already know, that you didn't know just from reading the newspaper? And then, of course, a lot of what you read in the newspaper wasn't true. But we were clapping for first responders every night here. And that was fine because it was a very tense time to be in a hospital, to be a doctor, a nurse, EMT. I get that. That's cool. But my problem is what the left then decided to do. As we started to say, hey, can we end these lockdowns? There was this whole push. First, there was the police who are first responders. They've thrown them completely under the bus. So we've gone from loving first responders, including law enforcement, to now the left, the media, the Democrat Party. Don't forget, these are, I don't know why anyone acts like this is even a controversial statement. The protesters and the looters and the rioters, these are Democrats. Now, that doesn't mean that all Democrats are guilty. I won't do what they do and say that everyone's responsible for the acts of someone else. But we should look at which side of the political aisle has produced this mayhem and destruction. And it's not the right. It's not conservatives. And you notice why can't we say that? I don't hear that nearly enough. These are Democrats doing this. We all know it. There's no argument. They're Democrats. They hate Trump. This is anti-Trumpism. Let's start with some first facts here, some foundational truths. That's one of them. But we were told that law enforcement was of first responders, or at least they are first responders, and so we're clapping for them. And then, okay, cops are bad. But now we can add a change from some of the medical first responders, too. And I tell you, I rarely lose my temper in political discussions, but this one has got me frayed at the edges. Because because I see all these people who had these prominent voices and platforms, and including these, now they've gotten a little taste of being a kind of public hero, the adulation of the crowd for people who are epidemiologists or public health experts who are lockdowners. They are all about lockdown, have been, and if you question them, they would say, I'm sorry, do you want more people to die? Do you want more deaths? Then do as we say. Social distance and wear masks. And lock down the entire economy and don't live your lives. Okay. But then a left-wing virtue signaling extravaganza, which is what's really going on here, that comes up with now this is the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement. That's what this is now. And all of the debates I'm hearing on this are being had in bad faith. All the things that Black Lives Matter says in part it stands for that are good and that are true are universally agreed upon. And any ideas that came forward from the movement that are worth hearing, people are already open to discussion and have taken action on, whether it's talking about police reform or other specifics of police reform. But stuff like defund the cops are racist, America's a terrible society, bend the knee, apologize for your white privilege, feel your white guilt as deeply as possible or you're an immoral person. No, I reject all that. I do not accept it. That's not something that we should just be bullied into. And this reminds me, I also want to say this right now at the beginning of the show. Never, ever bend the knee to the mob. Never, ever apologize for things that you did not do. Anyone who wants you to abandon those two principles is seeking to undermine and control you. Just remember that. And we're seeing this play out. And I can already hear you saying, wait a second, Buck, yesterday, didn't you tell me that some of as a tactical measure to diffuse protests, I was thinking maybe in some circumstances, NYPD taking a knee in solidarity, I could see how they'd feel that way. But the moment that there's any pressure, and right now there is pressure from this movement, such as it is, that you do this or else, you better do this, or else we'll riot, or even if it's just or else you're a bad person. No, I don't think so. Not happening. Not on my watch. Never kneel to the mob. If the people that are out there still, and this is where I was trying to draw a line yesterday, but now I just want to be very clear. You never kneel to the mob because they tell you you should. If you feel you should kneel for some reason, whether it's in praise of God or it's because you feel solidarity with Colin Kaepernick, whatever. If that's how you feel, well, then that's your right. But never do it. Never do it to appease. Never do it because the mob demands it. Because it's never enough. They'll always, always demand more. Never, ever kneel to the mob. Speaking of mobs, you have these protesters going through the streets here in New York day after day, thousands and thousands of them. I've seen them out there. They're all, it's like a big party for some of them. For others, it's an expression of outrage. And the whole thing is, quite honestly, it's not going to change anything, really. And look, this is the mobilization of the left against Trump for the fall. That's what's happening because they're losing their grip on the lockdown. And they were really thinking that COVID was going to, no, actually, the president did a pretty good job, all things considered. The federal government produced the ventilators, shut down the flights. There's plenty you could point to where Trump was strong on the COVID response. And if anything, he was too strong in that he went along with the leftist lockdown position, as did many other Republicans, as did some conservatives I know in media have not forgotten who it was. Listen to the experts. Some of them were giving me a hard time about it. They did so in private, so I will also keep that private. But no, I don't think so. I don't think I'm just going to listen to the experts. Speaking of the experts. See, now I'm starting to pick up Governor Cuomo because he talks like this during the press conference. But then he kind of comes down here and goes fast. And that'll come back up here to make a declaration that he thinks is smart, but smart people think is stupid. But then he throws a bunch of facts into it down here. Let me tell you what I mean. This is kind of the rhythm that I've seen him do on TV now, and so I feel like I kind of inadvertently do it sometimes. But I just remember, and there was an incident. I don't think I told you about this yet. There was an incident in my building here where someone who works for the staff of the building was screamed at by a tenant. He was really shaken up by it. Screamed at by a tenant because his mask had been down a little bit. The mask shamers are all around, right? The mask shamers continue to think that because it's become a political symbol and it's virtue signaling, and we all get it now, right? I listen to science. That's what it is. But I also remember that if you started to say, well, I'm willing, because I was one of the people saying this, I'm willing to go out and take the risk of contracting COVID by living my life. I'm willing to go out and handle these risks personally. It was, no, sorry, you're not allowed to, because it's not about the risk to you. You're overstressing the healthcare system, and you are because you could infect somebody else, and then they'll have to go to the hospital, and they'll be stressing our hospitals and even putting our healthcare providers at unnecessary risk. So you are a prisoner of our whims because of this formulation. Oh, well, that's really interesting, because New York City hospital staff is now on video standing outside the hospital as thousands of protesters, no social distancing, packed in together like sardines, thousands of them march by. And here's what that New York City hospital staff has to say about it. Play clip 4. Thanking the protesters. 2 weeks ago, if you were a protester, and there's countless examples, I mean, from governors, from big overpaid jerks in the media, on the Democrats, all over the place, the left, everybody, Hollywood. If you wanted to protest the lockdown, you were a reckless, bad person who didn't listen to the experts and didn't understand the science. Nothing has changed. We were warned every 2 weeks for the last 6 weeks about once there's a reopening, there's going to be a spike. Dr. Fauci's like, when the mitigation efforts drop down a little bit, we're going to come back, and you could see a spike. You could see a drop. You could see a spike. I'm thinking spike because mitigation is less. It didn't happen. Wrong again, Fauci. But we were told that there would be more cases, there'd be more deaths, and so obviously a mass gathering like the protests, night after night, day after day, this isn't a one-off. If what they were telling us, if they really believed it, what we're seeing here is reckless and wrong from a purely health standpoint. Put aside a lot of the stupid messaging like defund cops and just the self-righteous, sanctimonious orgy that is going on with a lot of this stuff. But I have to tell you, it's so disheartening. It's so disheartening that no one even cares that they're such frauds anymore, because it feels too good to adopt these fraudulent positions. It's so gratifying to go out and scream about how you're not racist. Other people are racist. You're one of the good people. What have you done to earn that? And why are the other people racist out there exactly? They never bother with this. But then they transition, and this is where I'll go next in just a moment here. Then they transition because we know that they have switched. It has gone from this is reckless and dangerous, protests are reckless and dangerous. Now, even healthcare workers are so brainwashed, nurses, doctors, a lot of, especially in, there are a fair amount of conservative surgeons and specialists, but you look at GPs, psychologists, psychiatrists, and a lot of nurses, liberals, just by affiliation. I just know this from professional data that's out there. So they're all saying this is okay now. But now they have an answer as to why all of a sudden this is all right. But I want to tell you what it will blow your mind how stupid this is. So you may be saying, what could the libs possibly say after blackmailing us all with, you just want grandma to die. You just care about the stock market. Because we wanted to go and start to live our lives again. And they said, no mass gathering, social distancing. Social distancing signs are up in public parks. Stay this far apart. But not for the protesters. You know what they say now? And I'm telling you, you'll see it all over the internet. Well, this is really important. This is about justice. This is about lives of people. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not it's not important. You got 40 million people have lost their jobs. Suicides are spiking. Cancers are going untreated and undiagnosed. People are having mental breakdowns. You have kids not in school for months. Millions of businesses have gone. They haven't gone out of business. They've been forced out of business. The economic devastation is like nothing we have seen since the Great Depression. And this was a choice, which makes it even worse. But this new iteration of basically we hate cops and society is racist. That's really the message. That's serious enough for protest. But all that other stuff I just said to you, the millions and millions of people who are fired, who can't pay their bills, who go to sleep every night wondering if their financial future is destroyed, if their credit is destroyed, they'll never be able to buy that home now. They won't be able to save up for that wedding they were planning. Oh, and a wedding and a funeral, can't do that. Remember, funeral, if your family died, if you had a family member who died of COVID-19, these same public health experts, these abject lib frauds that are making a name for themselves in the last couple of months, we're saying, sorry, not only can you not see your dying relative in the hospital, but you can't even have more than 10 people gathering for a funeral. Not important enough. Oh, but this BS, in New York, it's overwhelmingly a bunch of young libs with nothing to do who don't give a crap about what the police are really doing. It just makes them feel good to scream about it and hold up signs. That's important enough to risk death from COVID. These people are contemptible. Their arguments are unserious, but we have to take them seriously because they are destroying everything that is true and everything that is good about our society. And they cannot be reasoned with. Oh, now it's a great time for anti-Trumpism from people who want to get big book deals and want to have some positive press in the mainstream media, maybe get put on the board of a company, get some speaking gigs, and have people, at least in Democrat strongholds across the country, look at them like, yeah, that person's really speaking truth here. And so that we have General Mattis. Now, look, there are some generals that I had interactions with myself. Like when the stuff with Petraeus happened, it was not even a little bit surprising to me because Petraeus was known by all who knew him as an egomaniac and really arrogant. So was he competent? Sure. Was he, the greatest general of a generation? No. And so what I've learned from the Petraeus experience in particular is that generals who have really positive press around them, they're usually generals that have cultivated that. And so I'm not saying it makes it untrue, but it certainly means that you should question when someone is a 4-star and everyone goes, oh, well, that person's a genius. I'm not saying there aren't genius and amazing 4-stars. Of course there are. But when the media says it, I'm not talking about when soldiers that I know say, then I'm more inclined to say, okay, sure, that sounds right, or at least, that sounds credible. But when you have the media saying it, it's always, is this 4-star woke? Is that why the press around him is so strong, is so positive? So let's get into now. Mattis has decided to weigh in on this. The country, and the Tucker Carlson monologues this week have been amazing. And going through the 9, count it, 9, you got 9 people, unarmed African Americans killed. And that doesn't mean 9 innocent people at all. That's why he went through 1 or 2 cases of a straight up mistake, and mistakes with law enforcement will happen. They're terrible. They're tragic. The families should get the support of the community, and they do get big payouts from local government for this. And no one wants, accidents happen. At some point, and to say that is not to excuse them, but that's just a fact. You try to limit them. You try to have the best police training you can, but over 10 million arrests a year, you might have 1 or 2 people who are shot accidentally by police. This is just, but some of the other cases that he brought up as well were people where you would think, okay, maybe they weren't armed at the time of the confrontation, but they were clearly career criminals. They were belligerent. The officer may have believed credibly that there was a threat. The difference between unarmed, if you're a law enforcement officer, and someone who just picked a handgun up off the floorboard of their car is about a second and a half. And that came up even in one of the cases. And so that then brings me back here to what are we really being told is under protest at this point? What's really going on here? And why is this Trump's fault? The Atlantic, which is just woke.com. The Atlantic is an abomination of an opinion journal now. It used to actually have some good writers who would, and now it's disgusting. Jeffrey Goldberg has ruined it, but that's not a surprise. James Mattis denounces President Trump, describes him as a threat to the Constitution. In an extraordinary condemnation, the former defense secretary backs protesters and says the president is trying to turn Americans against one another. Now, look, Mattis is entitled to his opinion, and I'm entitled to say, I don't give a crap what General Mattis thinks about this. Was he kept up by sirens and protesters a couple nights ago as his city was ransacked? And I mean outside his window, because mine was. Well, what's his answer? Let it keep happening? Let the libs do nothing as people run wild and act like barbarians and destroy and steal and menace and attack? Is that the answer? Oh, General Mattis, that's really impressive stuff. He said to The Atlantic, I've watched this week's unfolding events angry and appalled. Oh, okay. Maybe he's angry and appalled that this completely, really orchestrated expression of outrage and political mobilization. That's what's really going on behind the scenes here. The words equal justice under law are carved in the pediment of the United States Supreme Court. This is what protesters are rightly demanding. It is a wholesome and unifying demand, one that all of us should get behind. We must not be distracted by a small number of lawbreakers. Okay, General Mattis is just either now socially a coward. I know, he served in the military, so he could never use the C word, but socially this is cowardice. Or he's just not that smart. I know we're always told he reads 1,000 books a year or something. Okay. Maybe he should have gone for a walk around some cities in the United States and see what's really going on here and get a better sense of reality in this country instead of promoting endless war in the Middle East, which, remember, he left the Trump administration because Trump didn't want to have an escalation of soldiers in Syria. Who was right on that? Mattis, the genius, or Trump? Oh, Trump was right on that. And who was also pushing the administration to do, that was me. Right. I remember there were some conservatives, some very prominent conservatives came after me. Some of you will probably remember one or two of them. Oh, and I said, you want to debate Syria deployments with me? Let's do that. But I'll leave that behind for now. What Mattis is saying here is stupid. Because, yeah, we all agree equal justice under the law. That's why the guy who killed George Floyd is facing second-degree murder, which is probably an overcharge. He should just be facing manslaughter. But, okay, but he's facing second-degree murder. And the three other guys that were just there and a part of the arrest are facing accessory to murder charges. So in what way is justice not being done? Oh, no, is the claim that police are supposed to be perfect? That's what I'd like to know. Is the claim that there can never be police malfeasance? Because that's an unreasonable, impossible demand. And it just means that this is being used for agitation and unrest, not for reform. Is Mattis smart enough to know that? Either he isn't smart enough or he's cynical. And he right now he just needs that pat on the back from the establishment after the Trump administration fired him.
Well, I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country. Let me just tell you what I see or what I feel when the national anthem is played and when I look at the flag of the United States. I envision my two grandfathers who fought for this country during World War II, one in the Army and one in the Marine Corps, both risking their lives to protect our country and to try to make our country and this world a better place. So every time I stand with my hand over my heart, looking at that flag and singing the national anthem, that's what I think about. And in many cases, it brings me to tears, thinking about all that has been sacrificed, not just those in the military, but for that matter, those throughout the civil rights movements of the 60s, and everyone and all that has been endured by so many people up until this point. And is everything right with our country right now? No, it's not. We still have a long way to go. But I think what you do by standing there and showing respect to the flag with your hand over your heart is it shows unity. It shows that we are all in this together. We can all do better, and that we are all part of the solution.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with anything that Drew Brees said there. In fact, it was eloquent, it was thoughtful, it was well said, and I feel like, is this guy going to run for Senate or something? Because he definitely could. And producer Mark, is he not one of the best, just so I'm clear, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, right?
He's one of the best of all time, yes.
Yeah, okay. This guy's obviously also really good. He's just saying, look, I don't think, he didn't say people should not be allowed to disrespect the flag. He just said, I do not agree with people showing disrespect to the flag, right? And now, so this is the game that has always played here with the Kaepernick thing. Why are they doing it when people, because they want attention. Why does it get attention for the cause? Because the perception, the reason you're doing something, right, when it comes to the national anthem and is showing respect for the flag and for our country. That's what it's supposed to be about. And if you do something during that, you are taking from that moment to give to something else. If I stood up at someone's funeral and said, hey, everybody, we really need to work on poverty issues around the globe. Okay, maybe that's true, but it is disrespectful to the funeral that is going on. Remember, not even allowed to have real funerals now because social distancing. It's disrespectful to the funeral that's going on. And to say otherwise is just disingenuous. I mean, it's very clear what's going on. The reason you're choosing that moment is because you understand what people intend it to be, and you want to direct it to something else. And you want to direct attention to some other thing. Well, when you're doing that in a time set aside for a thing, in this case, respect to the flag, yeah, there's a disrespect that is being shown. That's That's just, I don't know. I mean, but maybe I'm giving too much rational thought to this. As I said, let's start off the top of this. Libs have embraced irrationality. We are in a time of mass insanity on the left. This is real now. This is happening. Drew Brees said he didn't even tell people they can't or they should. He's just saying, I don't agree. And then he talked about his family history serving the military and what the flag means for him. And he even said, the country's not perfect. Why do we all have to say that? We have to just, there's a little part of me that gets annoyed. It's not quite bending the knee. Oh, and Drew Brees has bent the knee. Now he's apologized for his insensitive comments. What? There was nothing insensitive about what he said. No, they're just demanding that you read from a certain script. But even to have to say things, and I do it too, because that's the power around these issues. If you don't say certain things repeatedly, over and over, you got to make it clear, got to keep saying it. It doesn't matter if you've said 100 times before, yes, there is injustice in society. Yes, there is racism in society. The moment that you don't say it when you're talking about these issues, you don't have to concede that first. Oh, maybe you don't think there's racism. Maybe you don't think there's injustice. This is the way that, look, it's the way that authoritarians argue, right? Do as I say or else I'll destroy you, right? Say as I want you to say or else I'll ruin you. And that's what we're up against. It's fascinating to me that we are always led to believe by the media that, and for example, Eric Holder, we're cowards when it comes to having conversations about race. This is when he was Attorney General of the United States under the Obama administration. Like, we're talking about race all the time. It's on the news constantly. This is out. We've had protests for years. We're constant discussions of race. It comes up in sports, it comes up in politics. And I'm not even going to say, forget about whether we talk about race more than we should in this country for a second, because I do think it's divisive, and I think that it does not serve our interests as a society to allow ourselves to be separated by completely, morally and ethically irrelevant but immutable characteristics, skin color. To separate us by those things at all psychologically and to play into that is damaging, dangerous to society, and that's why the libs are the arsonists here. They are not the firefighters. And in some cases, the libs are literally the arsonists here. We're seeing plenty of that going on. But here we have race as an issue where if you talk about it and in any way you are you misspeak, and this is a very complicated issue. There's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of history and a lot of policy and statistics and emotions. And there's a lot of things. If you step out, then it is very likely that you will suffer severe consequences. There is no grace, there is no forgiveness offered to people who say something that isn't quite what they mean, that, it is radioactive. You better say what the left wants you to say on this, or else you are a target. But we're to believe that, that the issue here is that we don't talk about it enough, and that we're all so flippant, and we don't care about race. We don't care about race. You say the wrong thing about race, your life is ruined. And I don't even mean saying something that's really bad. I mean saying, just go back and remember a tennis announcer, for example, on ESPN, who clearly said guerrilla, Guerrill, or Guerrilla. No, one R, two R's. Producer Mark, fact check me on that one. But who clearly was saying that, and they tried to say that he was saying about an attack. He wasn't talking about a person, a form of attack. Right, guerrilla meaning little war, going back to the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s, and they fired that. I mean, that guy got in huge trouble. It's double R. That's what I thought. I have to see it. Saying it out loud was tougher. Not gonna win the spelling bee. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So. But that guy got in tremendous trouble. There was also that reporter who wrote, blank in the armor. Does anyone really think he was trying to be racist? He just didn't really think about it when he was writing about Jeremy Lin. Fired, ruined. But we're led to believe, People are flipping about race. They don't care. No. It's like walking around in a landmine field and the libs keep moving where the mines are. So let's talk about this, but say the wrong thing and you're done. Let's talk about this, but if anyone hears something that doesn't sound quite right, we're going to make sure that you are ruined. You are anathema. You are ostracized from society. Your job is lost, and, people won't want to rent you a house or won't want to, serve you in a restaurant. And I'm not talking about for people that are walking around in blackface or KKK hoods. They get to be elected Democrats. Facts can be a tough thing to handle, folks. Oh, you mean like senator for decades, Byrd, formerly of the KKK, Democrat Party? Oh, that's right. You mean Governor Northam of Virginia? I'm not sure if it was the KKK mask or blackface. It was one of the two, though. Herring, number 3 in Virginia, also thinks he wore blackface at some point. I just, this is about the weaponization of narratives for political means, and people pretend that it's about justice. If it were about justice, wouldn't they want everyone to have the comfort and the safety of open ideas and honest conversation to bring us together? No, of course not. It's just pushing everyone that they don't like politically out into the landmine field of discussing race and watching as people on the other side get blown up by it. And if someone on their side's has stepped on a mine, it's a dud, doesn't count. That's what discussions about race are like in this country.